Leung is the Parliamentary Secretary for Immigration and Multiculturalism, and he has joined us on this trip with me, and of course Marlene Gallyot, and I think you all know Nirmal Pereira, right? So thank you for this opportunity, and let me begin by first thanking Nirmal for this great opportunity and the invitation to come here. He's working tirelessly for all Sri Lankans, and we really appreciate the time he's taken to help us out here and be with us and spend some time with us. So thank you very, very much. Okay, thank you. And of course, we're here to just see and learn and listen about Sri Lanka, and we've been doing that for the last few days.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. We really appreciate your invitation. I have to tell the people of Sri Lanka, Ayubowan, Vanakkam, and Salam Alaikum, because that's the official languages, I guess, in your country. We really had a very good time with all your help by visiting Jaffna and Kilauea today. And I'm very pleased to tell you that we had an opportunity to visit the school, the hospitals, and your effort. You've been working very hard to try and put this event together for us. And we really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much for all this effort.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. It's for me, it's a pleasure to be back in Sri Lanka again. I was here after the tsunami in 2004. At the end of 2004, I was back by 2007 to supply 40 houses for the disaster relief, and it is a great pleasure to see that you have a plan and you have executed a plan quite well to bring your country back to recovery from that terrible natural disaster. And and I look forward to seeing greater improvements as the years go on.
Questions? What we observed was very interesting. We've also observed a process that's being implemented, that's actually seeing a great deal of reconstruction that's taking place. Pardon me. And not just on the roads, but we visited the teaching hospital. We visited various places up there, and it's quite exciting to see what's going on, because I think the outside world really doesn't hear or see much of that. And so to come firsthand and observe what's going on was outstanding.
So again, Tamil.
Yes.
So let me just ask this question: how would you feel after the post-conflict period? How would you feel from their language and from their feeling? How do they feel the environment? How do you feel how the development is being experienced by the community over there?
Well, I think today I surprised them because I spoke to them in Tamil. I learned Tamil in school, and that's many years ago. So they felt connected. When you spoke to them in Tamil, they felt connected. I spoke to the children. First, the children were not sure what to say, but when they hear me speak in Tamil, they were very pleased, and we gave them little souvenirs. We went to the rehabilitation center as well, and I got a chance to meet some families, and we distributed some chocolate because there are lots of kids out there. I think when you speak a language that connects with people, I think you gain their trust. And they seemed very happy. I see that life is normal out there in both Jaffna and Kilauea, so I think it's a great opportunity for us to go there today.
More attention from the government for the development of more.
I'll leave that to Joe to
well,
talk.
my comment on that was certainly a lot of the industries were kind of destroyed during the difficult periods that you had. There are huge business opportunities there to develop business, and why is that important? That's important because it creates employment, and employment will keep people happier, that they can actually pay for the things that they want, they can live in good accommodations, etc. And I think part of the key to the future is having good employment, and so good industries available, taking into account the natural things that are required, like maybe even fish processing. There were no fish processing plants up there, even though you produce huge amounts of fish from the local seas. Other things like that could very much do with an injection of capital to build up that part of the country.
So many times, and even when the conflict was there, how would you feel the development and the potential investment capacity in Sri Lanka in the post-war era, like this period?
Let me say that I have not frequented many times. I was here to help for the reconstruction of the post tsunami disaster. So it was really in the south that I was familiar with. I really have not been familiar with the events in the north in the last few years. But I quite agree with my colleague that what is needed is business-to-business type engagement in Sri Lanka amongst the neighboring nations of this area to bring in investment and to bring in business. I mean, there are many areas, as in agriculture, in textile, in seafood processing, in growing some of the seafood that is needed for consumption in the immediate area. And I think those are the areas that we could all work on.
What's your views on LLRC? Do you think that LLRC will address the issues of issues that led to the conflict?
You're going to have to explain a little bit who LRR is, or the acronyms. Yes, I mean, there are always lessons to be learned from any conflict. Clearly, if you look around the world, and Canada is one of those great countries where if you have peace, you have prosperity. And so some of these recommendations need to be looked at closely and appropriate action taken so that the recognition is there internationally as to what's being done. What we saw there was a very well-established administrative process that can actually implement some of these changes that need to be made. And certainly the processes that are in place seem to be very robust. CS has been in a number of rebuilding opportunities, and he concurs that the processes that you're putting in place to allow grassroots projects to come up and be properly accepted is a great opportunity for you, for Sri Lankans. Yeah.
Also, and he expressed the interest now that you're putting more focus and having both languages, and I think that's a great start, so that people will be more familiar with both languages and the friendship builds up better.
And from a Canadian perspective, we have some opinion on that because we are a bilingual nation, English and French. And in fact, that has helped reduce some of the conflict and some of the things that we have in terms of moving forward between the Quebec issue and Canada itself.
Do you think the Lesson Learned and Reconciliation Commission will address the issues with regard of accountability issues that is raised by many parts of international community?
Right. I think again, the accountability side of things needs to be worked out in some fashion. If we take a look around the world, there's been numerous places where there's been conflict as bad, if not worse than here. For example, the example I've looked at is Rwanda, where over 800,000 people were killed in ethnic violence. Yet they're one of the top nations in Africa now. And the way they've come about that is to have a reconciliation process, okay, that doesn't look for retaliation, okay, but looks more for a recompensation of some sort, okay. And I think that is one of the models that maybe should be looked at as part of the solutions. They've gone on in a similar fashion to set up infrastructure projects which gave access to education to everybody, which then gave access to healthcare because people could access the healthcare, and they're now putting in some very high-tech infrastructure for internet, etc., that will connect them to the world. And part of that is, so that they can actually learn from the rest of the world. They are short with skilled teachers, professors, etc., so online education will be a very big thing for them. Does that fit for Sri Lanka? I think you have some very smart people here. You have some great universities. And I think there are lessons to be learned from any other situation that can help. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean you know, that, you know, well, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it should be an acrimonious situation, right? It can be solved in a very very firm but very productive way to both sides. Okay, and clearly both sides have been involved in issues that need to be addressed. Okay, again, just from my own personal perspective, we're finding that, you know, the Sri Lankans themselves have not marketed themselves well in terms of what's being done. Okay, we have many of, dare I say it, the LTT folks, etc., that are living very well in Canada, in Germany, and other places like that, that would still like to propagate this war. And we've got to not allow that to happen by making sure that the people here are happy, employed, and have no reason for another war.
I'd like to comment on our Member of Parliament's message. A lot of people in Canada are not aware that there's so much being done. And today we were really surprised to see how much improvement, the roads have been done. Life is, you know, is moving on, and we were very pleased about that. So I wish that you all can promote yourself to show that these things are happening in Sri Lanka. So this is one thing that you all need to do.
Tamil diaspora is concentrating in Canada. So have they made any influence in the Canadian politics?
The Tamils, or?
Yes, the Tamil diaspora. Concentrating on.
Again, it's like almost any situation. There's always a minority that are very active, and so we do have a Tamil member of parliament on the NDP side, but that's the only Tamil person involved in that. But there are people involved at all levels of government, and the three levels are the federal level, the provincial level, and the municipal level. Okay.
Do you think Canada is capable of mediating the activities of LTT in Canada?
Well, again, I think Canada has a huge history and reputation of being very peaceable. In fact, you know, Canada has been involved in many peace missions through the UN, etc. And I think, you know, Canada at the moment is the top economic country in the G7 countries. And a country like that certainly would bring some weight to the solution. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, there was a comment by the Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper during the Chungen meeting in Australia that he would not attend the Sri Lanka next Chungen in scheduled to be held in Colombo. If the human rights situation is not good, what's your opinion?
Well, my comment on that is that what we're hearing in Canada is a very one-sided view. Okay, we're only hearing the view from the Tamil LTT folks. We're not hearing anything from the Sri Lankan government, the Sri Lankan people, etc. And so it's a one-sided view, and that's part of the reason why we're here. We're here to basically see what you've done, see what processes have you put in place. Like Marlene has actually said, we've visited some of the resettled people and who seem to be employable, employed, and enjoying the fact that they've got their lands back and they're actually starting a normal life. People who have had to be forced out of their areas are now coming back. And that's, again, you know, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be lots of things to solve there. But to allow the world to see that you are actually moving ahead on these issues is an important thing. And, you know, we understand last week there was a visit from the British Parliament, parliamentarians. So hopefully the message will get out to some of these countries that, you know, things are improving, that the government is actively involved, that processes are in place from the grassroots up to be able to allow Sri Lanka to grow as a country. And hopefully if that message gets out, then there'll be more business to be done with other nations. Canada has many free trade agreements with various countries, and maybe with Sri Lanka someday. when we can get these messages back.
So I just want to make another question. Like, as we all know, Canada is a soil with a great hospitality. So, being an environment where the Tamil diaspora, or kind of a situation where there is funds created or generated in the soil of Canada, would that inversely affect the communal integrity that is being created in Sri Lanka right now? So as you all witnessed, there is a huge integrity, like social unity being created. So would that inversely affect like a prevalence or a rising head from your soil? Would it inversely affect?
I'm not sure. It may not. But one of the things we can go back and tell the diaspora is that Sri Lanka is a country worth investing in, and we need to have the infrastructure and the will from the government and the Foreign Office, etc., to allow some of these people to come back and invest, and that will actually gel both countries in terms of what needs to be done. A simple example would be that the cost of money in Canada is only a couple of % interest for loans, etc. You could invest it in Sri Lanka and make much better return from that. And we're going to try and encourage people to come and actually invest in Sri Lanka, put some of these businesses in place that will generate employment and help, I think, the situation here.
And it is also an accepted fact that the Canadian government has sponsored that. I mean, like, helped us as always during the conflict era, and also after that, you have been giving us your enormous support. So, do you think the support that you give during the conflict era has reaped fruitful benefits that, as you expected, binding to parties like a sector of people's view? So now there is a government, now there is strict auditing, and a principle like a common, you can have a clear view on the funds that are being given. So do you think that has resulted, the funds that you give via NGOs and INGOs, have they reaped fruitful benefits to the community?
I believe it certainly has. If we went to the teaching hospital, there's a ward there that was sponsored by the Canadian CEDA development agencies. That's directly helping people in the area from that point of view. I don't think when Canada donates money or gives money that they're actually expecting anything in return except the development of that community. So there's nothing that's expected to come back to Canada as a result of that. Canada has been a great country in the sense that it is one of the few countries that's still donating. If you take a look at Europe and the crises that are happening there, it's tough. They're not putting out too much money for these sorts of things. US similarly has had lots of problems. Canada, for example, was the only country that donated $30 million towards eradicating TB, which is prevalent in all our South Asian and African countries. So we're looking to do I think a couple of things. One is be a conscience to the world. Highlight the facts that that things aren't working well. We've been involved in the Libyan conflict to a degree from that point of view. We've paid out a lot of money to various countries, but unfortunately it hasn't always ended up in the right place. So there is checks and balances, and the more checks and balances there are, the more comfortable a country would be in donating. So we're looking to see if we can go back and see if we can actually raise some funds for example, the teaching hospitals, cardiac unit, etc., which will directly affect people and people's lives.
So through Rotary as well.
Yeah, and through the Rotary Club, to help people through on that. That kind of answer your question?
Yeah, but basically what I wanted was really the funds you give to the development of the community purely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's accepted generally. Was that really effective? Like, were the funds really used than the government using now? Than the development that is taking place now after the conflict? Were they used to
the simple answer there is I don't know. Okay, so there's no point in me making a comment on that. But quite often it's like almost like going to church. You put your money in the plate and you don't really care how it's spent, right? And there is a sense that when we donate, we kind of get a nice feeling about it, and then we forget about it. And really, what I think we're trying to do in this new era is to be much more actively involved in ensuring that the money is actually used for the purpose it was given.
I'd like to make a comment as well. As you know, I ran for the federal elections for the Conservative Party, and it was predominated by the Tamil community. And as I talk to people, they say they're collecting money. There are lots of organizations in the Tamil community that say they're collecting money to send to the people in the Tamil areas like Jaffna and Kalanuchi and things like that. But when we asked the people today, they said they don't receive such money. And this was pretty disappointing for us that someone didn't tell us that yes, we are getting money from groups. So we'd like to go back and tell them that we personally went to these places, and I hope that we can find out where this money is going, because this money, if they're sending, it should be sent the proper channel to Cedar and things like that, so that the people get that money.
Taking into the human rights situation, how do you think of Sri Lanka's human rights situation? Has it improved?
It clearly has improved. Just talking to the people from, and it may be going back to when this war started, there did seem to be a lot of discrimination against the Tamil community in all aspects, but with the bilingualism, with the access to universities and colleges for training, with access to jobs, with resettlement of people into their old areas, there seems to be a different atmosphere here, an atmosphere of prosperity is starting to develop, and I think that's good for Sri Lanka.
What will be the Canadian government response at the next UN Human Rights Council meeting in March?
Again, I can't tell you what the government's response would be, but what I can tell you is that we'll be going back and making sure that our counterparts will know that we visited and the things that we've seen, and that may certainly change the view of what's going on. Okay.
I guess that's okay then.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
So, okay, as we don't want to stress you much, as a cream, like, to wrap this up, what would be the cream, like, the end result that the delegation from Canada would be taking to Canada about maybe the opinion, maybe the written segment, the part to the Canadian Parliament? What would be the idea, general idea about it?
Well, my immediate response would be that I am surprised and delighted that actual processes are in place. Quite often, money gets thrown at things without any real process. There is process in place. There's administration in place. There's projects that are being developed. There's clearly, from looking at other examples like Rwanda, critical is getting the infrastructure, which is the roads and the rails and the airports, etc., put in place, because that allows people to get access to the other services like healthcare, education, and all those things. What we see is a bright future. We see when we spoke to people, they were happy to be back there. They were happy to be back in their land and their communities, and with some of these micro businesses that are coming up. We saw chickens that people are using for eggs farming. We saw a little sort of wrought iron blacksmith type opportunity that somebody was doing in their backyard. I think these are great things because it encourages people to see that there's prosperity there. And when there's peace, like I said, we find that in most countries where peace exists, prosperity also thrives. Okay, so on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I like to tell our Canadian colleagues, like when you land in Sri Lanka, once you get into the car, you get into the Canadian Friendship Road. That's the road that Canada donated to us as a grant when the airport came up.
Mm-hmm.
So Canadians and Canadian people are very close to Sri Lankans and their hearts. So we wish that we are a country that we have come out of a 30-year-old war, where a lot of opportunities were lost for the people of Sri Lanka, whether they be Sinhalese, Tamils or Muslims. So we need your assistance as a developed country, one of the first country of G7, and we need the opportunity, we need the market. We are capable of a lot of people. So I hope that we like to invite more and more parliamentarians for them to see to themselves what is happening in Sri Lanka and assist us to improve our situation and to improve the conditions of the people. And I hope you will contribute to that effect in the parliament once you get back. Thank you. All the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Sri Lanka.